We're going to be talking about something in Bitcoin that is crashing aggressively that could dramatically impact your ability to purchase Bitcoin, believe it or not. Thank you all for tuning in for this earth-shattering crash of Bitcoin data that I'm going to hold for a moment. And I'm about to show you some amazing charts that are going to blow your mind. Before I do that though, what's going on everybody? It's your boy JT and we are back to the Crypto Den. This channel is where I educate y'all on what I know in this space to try to help you be more educated on this asset class. That is my goal. So today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's important. Okay, it's very important because it is roughly 65-ish% of the entire crypto market. We have 20 something million tokens now, I think, thanks to Pump.Fun and all these other token launch pads. But, you know, realistically, all of them are garbage. 99.99% of this stuff is complete hot trash. But there's just this little sliver of legitimate companies that are building real things, and that is my gift, and I express that gift with my fund. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest one ever, Bitcoin, because it moves all of the ones that I love. For right now, there is a direct correlation to all the alts I treasure and Bitcoin's price. And that is true to basically every crypto. Bitcoin really matters. And there is a real-time squeeze on Bitcoin. The metric that you've been hopefully anticipating is volume of Bitcoin on exchanges, y'all. It is cratering in real time. So the green is how many Bitcoins sit on exchanges. And this is real. We went from, what is this, in 2024, we went from 2.6 million to now only having 2 million. So we have taken almost 600,000 Bitcoin off exchanges. What does that mean? Well, it means that less and less and less Bitcoin is going to be available in liquidity that you can participate in. A lot of people do not understand how complex the Bitcoin market is. If you have a lot of Bitcoin, you can't go to these exchanges. Like, you just can't. The price slippage alone in an exchange on 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Bitcoin, hundreds of millions of dollars, like, genuinely is going to affect you in the tens and 20s of millions. There's this whole other world that is exclusive to the elite in crypto, and they are winning. That pool, if you will, of people or individuals that invest in crypto is called OTC. We have exchange volume crashing, and that means we're also going to have this grow in size. And I think the amount of Bitcoin that ends up in this, the threshold could be lowered because of how many people are going to be self-custodying their Bitcoin. And maybe I'm wrong, or maybe there's a third party that's going to be custodying Bitcoin. I think these 600,000 Bitcoin that are off exchanges are actually sitting in cold storage as a representation of all these ETFs, because that number loosely aligns with how many Bitcoins are held by all of these ETFs that have come out for the Bitcoin. But either way, as Bitcoin moves off exchanges, the growth of over-the-counter desks. Now, it's going to sound crazy, but basically what OTC Bitcoin trading is, it is a buyer and a seller of large amounts of Bitcoin, generally above a few hundred. So we're talking, what, 100 would be 10 million, 10 million and up. You can't really put out a 10 million sell order on Coinbase, mainly because Coinbase and a lot of exchanges, what they actually do to keep their order book succinct is they will actually front the buys and then fill the sells, but they're not going to front 10 million. Does that make sense? Like, they're going to actually buy your Bitcoin for you and then fill sell orders behind you so you have a better user experience of putting in a trade and boom. Otherwise, your order could sit there in the order book for a long time waiting to be filled. And then in that time of it being filled, the price could fluctuate so much. Your 10 million could be 7.5 or 12.5. And then you have to set your slippage is what that's called. Okay. So the time it takes for the order to be filled, there's this slippage. And that slippage on a lot of money can really affect the trade. There's these private markets where there's a broker in between, or fence, and they are meeting buyers and sellers that have either demand for 10 million plus Bitcoin, or they have 10 million Bitcoin they'd like to sell. There's a fixed discount, but it's cheaper than the slippage. So like, if you might slip 5 points on a market like Coinbase, right? You pay a 2% discount and then a 1% commission, let's say. So you're out 3 instead of 5, if that makes sense. And it's a fixed thing, it's secure, everyone has a third party involved. It is riddled with scams, and it's a totally unregulated market. It's just two citizens of the world meeting and dispensing Tether for Bitcoin and Bitcoin for Tether. But in general, what we're going to see, I think, is an increase in people keeping their Bitcoin on exchanges, which means you're going to have people thinking long term, and there's going to be a supply shock. We're not going to have as much Bitcoin to trade hands. The halving cycle plus large institutions buying a ton and putting it on cold storage, like the IBIT, they have 180 something. They almost have more Bitcoin than the United States of America. China and America together don't even have as much as MicroStrategy. So we're just seeing a global race for this stuff, and it's getting ripped off exchanges, and all of those players are going to be buying on an OTC market. I just think you and I, like, as individuals, are really going to struggle getting good market rates. We're going to have to, eventually, people are going to have to go to people that have been sitting on it for 10 years in cold storage and be like, hey, will you give me some Bitcoin? And then you're going to get a premium, not a discount. I think that's the future of Bitcoin. That's how serious the supply shock is. And I think it's only going to get worse or better if you own Bitcoin. I'm not saying the window is shrinking, but the data suggests that there are precedents for the supply that normal people can trade is getting smaller, which is great for Bitcoin price, but long term, if you're a laggard, also bad for you. You decide. Which camp are you in? I am in the early adopter camp. Been doing this since 2018-ish. So I love it. And it's one of the best decisions I ever personally made. That's why I started a hedge fund. This space is awesome. Hopefully you learned something today. Until next time, take care of one another. Peace and love. I'll see you all. Hey everybody, it's JT. Just in case you didn't know, I would love a sub. Almost 97% of you that have viewed our content have not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you just hit that sub button, give us a like, and let us know how we're doing.